going to be a little video on um, practicing and understanding how the same object will predictably change in size if we know some of the rules of whatever drawing we happen to be doing. Really, this perspective stuff for me just feels like, okay, we're going to set up the rules. We're going to play this game called perspective drawing, and we need rules. Rules. So one of the things you need to know for in certain scenarios, most scenarios I will say, but there's ways, is knowing wherever on your drawing is the division between stuff that you're going to be looking up at or stuff you'll be looking down at. So if you're familiar with this idea, this is often called eye level. It happens to be horizontal and unfortunately started getting called the horizon for all this perspective drawing, which doesn't make any sense because when you're sitting in a room, you don't see the horizon. But indeed, they're all the same thing, and it happens to be wherever how the height of your head related to the lowest thing that you're drawing on when you are looking straight ahead and imagining that divisional line from where everything in your world is either something that you could say, oh yeah, that's up from you, or that's down from you. So for here, I'm just going to be talking about the stuff that's down, but similar ideas will apply to stuff that's up. And I'm going to think of this as a ground plane. My drawing here, which is lovely, I know, but I'm not sure what. Maybe it's a tabletop, and I'm going to put a stick on it. And I'm not going to get too into these endpoints because I just want to focus on the how to really sort of understand how these things will change in size predictably as they move away from us or happen to be placed further away or closer to us. So, if I know the rules of this horizon line, and I have an established distance of what this stick is, I can, regardless of where I move this stick around in space, I can pretty easily find the size. And I will demonstrate that if, for example, I wanted to move it a little bit further away from me and a little to the right, and I wanted to know how much it shrinks, how much it will appear to shrink. Very careful on that. Then I'm going to use this wacky notion, but powerful, of extending a line between the ones that are there, extending that all the way up to that divisional line, and then coming back through the known, aiming back down through the known. And now I know that this point will fall on that same line. So often you sort of get, when learning perspective, get tossed into talking about railroad tracks, which I think was probably a good analogy 100 years ago. I'm getting historical trouble. Don't get me wrong, I love trains, but I'm a little sick of those train tracks. I do want you to make sure that you're thinking this is a stick, and it is it is the same length, but in this set of rules will appear smaller or larger depending on how high or low it is, which indicates how far or near it is. If I say I was going to say, and any stick that is on this, that was moved in that particular exact direction, would be correspondingly that wide. If I moved it down here, if this was the left point and I started down here, I wanted to shift it down here, I'm going to do the same kind of thing. I know these two, and I'm going to use these two and the division line to figure out the other one. I will sketch an imaginary extension guideline through the two, and when I get to this division point, the turnaround point, I'm going to come back through the one I know. And I know it will be about that big when it gets that wide, if it was this much closer to me. Hopefully this is reading as a flat thing. I'm not convinced that it really is, but I'll worry about that later. Partly it would if I had these sorts of lines, but that's kind of create other interesting things that I don't want to aspects. But if I wanted to move this way up here, and I wanted to know if this is the same stick, how wide it's going to be in this particular set of rules. Same idea. I could use any one that I sort of already know. I'm going to keep going from my first one to try to have some consistency. This might be a great candidate for busting out your unmarked straight edge. Also known as a folded piece of paper. So this is kind of fun. Let me see. It's through this one, right? So by the time it gets way up there, it's going to be really teeny. In this particular set of rules. So I think that's a really powerful thing to understand and to get very comfortable with just this, I just need to go to figure out the size of something. The idea of vanishing points in, is there going to be one? Is there going to be two? Oh my God, I hope there's not three. Indeed, the idea is that we're making all these sort of triangular things that are going through a couple things we know, stopping and turning around here, and coming back to find out the thing that we don't know. And being confident, which is say, making that triangle, stopping here, and turning around, and not panicking if you happen to have 10 different reference vanishing points. I wish is something that my initial perspective teachers would have showed me. So if it was there, it would be that. I suppose to help this read like it's actually a ground plane. Perhaps I should have done this from the start, but oh well. But if you've seen some of my other stuff, you'll know that I sort of like indicating distance with literally sort of the size of the endpoints. And squinting. I'm still not sure that's working. But do that and get comfortable with just making this quick little guide to the horizon line and coming back to help you figure out how the same object will resize depending on the rules of whatever perspective drawing you happen to be doing. More later.